Hello and welcome to the session. Now let's understand this interesting topic, the Apache Maven project and how it is useful and beneficial for our Java-based project uh, uh, implementation, execution and running and multiple other things. Now before starting the actual points into Maven, let us understand the current problems in our project. So if you create a simple project in a conventional way in IntelliJ or Eclipse, and considering that your project scope is going to increase. So let's take this example. So I have this project wherein I have to use a lot of third-party libraries, for example, Selenium, Apache PUI, JUnit.stng, Cucumber, and it has again internal its own other files. I want to use this database driver, I want to use this YAML file handling, some login and multiple other things, so PDF handling and so on. Now you see there are multiple jar files I need to import in my project, and I have to use it for a business problem. Now now what happens is, so handling this particular external jar files, and when I want to give this project to my colleagues, or if I want to use the existing project from my colleague to my system, managing this external jar file dependency is a bit of a problem. uh, there are many issues, there can be many issues. One of the issue could be like, the team is across the globe and you want to transfer the jar files from a folder, and when you download it from a shared folder or somewhere, the jar files might get corrupted. Because of some firewall issue, sometimes jar file downloading is not possible, or if the file size is so huge that it takes a lot of time to download and so on. So there can be multiple issues in this jar file management. Now consider that you have downloaded the jar files in your local system or any remote server where the project is running. Now obviously the class files or the jar files obviously has to be inside your class path. Now every time setting up this class path is always extra activity, and it might lead to errors. External jar file versioning. So consider that today you are using some X version of Apache PUI or Selenium, and tomorrow obviously there will be new features coming up, so you need to use the latest jar files, latest version. Now you can change it on your system, but then again, uh, uh, spreading it to the entire team, again you need to uh, copy and make the jar files available, add some remote folder, and everybody has to download it. So it's again an issue. Central repository. So you can, one of the thing is, you can make a jar file or make a central repository somewhere in your company network. But then again, due to firewall issues, and again, it is over a globe, over a network, so there are issues in again downloading and corruption. So we need to have something called as a central repository, from where we can download, build lifecycle management. So consider that you have a project which is running, but then using normal command lines, using normal commands, if you want to clean it, if you want to compile, build, test and deploy, so there's a lot of extra work you need to do. You might need to write a script or some external file which will control this. uh, Consider that you have a big project, so you have multiple projects. So there's a main project and there are a couple of slave projects. So managing that on a day-to-day basis, like some project is getting added, updated and so on, so could be an issue for a long term. Standard and uniform project folder structure. Now because you might create a project based on some requirement, and that you follow your own folder structure. Now that might be difficult for other resources or other people to understand straight away. So having a standard and uniform project structure at the time of project creation itself will give you a lot of push. So these are the couple of problems which I could see uh, are potential issues when you use a normal Java based project creation approach. Now let us see what is Maven and how it can be used to solve these problems in a better way. Okay, so Maven, it's a powerful build management tool for Java based projects mainly. Now we are going through a lot of theoretical concepts here. If you are aware of these concepts already, then I request you to skip this part and actually go to the implementation section. Okay, so it's a powerful build management tool, and it is used to generate the source code, to generate the documentation from the source code, to compile the source code. So we will see simple Maven commands which will allow us to compile the source code entirely. The entire project will be compiled. The It is used to package compiled code into jar file and zip file. So this is how you package your code, and you give you archive it using in a jar file or a zip file, and give it to other projects or other people to use it. It is Maven is used to install the packaged code on a server or in a repository. So this is where it will solve the little problem of remote repository or copying it from some external or a shared folder. Instead of that, it will install it and copy to the repository. So it simplifies the build process in the sense that you have a very straightaway and easily understandable commands using which you can build the project. You can clean, compile, package, and do multiple things. So in that way, it simplifies the build process. um, it is based on POM, that is project object model. So it's an XML file, and this is where the all the things happen in the Maven project. So XML file, pom.xml file is the base of all the project, and there will be we do a lot of configuration, and we specify parameters and dependency and a lot of things. So it is the important file in a Maven project. Now let's get started. So installation is, you just go to or you can Google out Maven download. You can go to this particular URL, and you can download the binary zip archive with a for a specific for a fairly latest version of the Maven. So I'm also using a fairly latest version for demo purpose or for any project processing purpose. Anything which is above 3.3 version is desirable. You can use latest. That is the recommended one. Now once you download it, that zip, you just have to unzip that file and unzip. So you, that is the actual Maven project, Maven tool or Maven software, and you download it, you keep it in a separate folder somewhere, and then that's it. So you have, that is the installation part. Now you need to also configure the environment variable so that the Maven is available for the projects to use. So as a precaution, we are using m2 underscore home and Maven underscore home environment variable. It is assumed that you also have Java underscore home variable already set. So how to do that? So just go to environment settings, control panel, then go to advanced, and then environment variable. And in the system variable, if you see, you need to add m2 underscore home and maven underscore home, and give the path of the folder where you have unzipped that particular Maven binary zip here, binary zip archive. So just give the path. It is assumed that you also have Java underscore home variable set, environment variable set. So typically this m2 underscore home, Maven underscore home will internally require the Java installation path, and that is why we need to have Java underscore home variable. Now, once these all three are available, just go to the path variable, and you need to add that maven underscore home slash bin and java underscore home. So these two are desired to have uh, in your environment variable. So save it, save it. Now, once you do that, open a fresh command prompt and just type this command mvn space minus minus version. So it will give you the version of the Maven. So that means your Maven installation and configuration is all the settings are correct, and you are ready to use this Maven project. Right. Now, let us see a simple demo how to create a sample project. So we will be doing it command line for better understanding. It can also be done using Eclipse or IntelliJ. There's a plugin available, or there's a nowadays it's all ready made there. So just have to download the IntelliJ or Eclipse and just create a new project. So it will give you the Maven option and you can just go next. Now we will do it using command line for better understanding. So I have copied this command already here on my command prompt. So I've created a fresh folder, Maven demo, this and I'm just using this command. So Maven archetype, MVN space archetype generate. So this archetype is a tool or a facility using which we can generate a Maven project. We can create a fresh Maven project. Then minus D minus capital D group ID equal to something. Now this is your the parent project or the main the title of your project. So it is a general convention that you put the title as like com dot company name dot, let's say, section name. For example, com dot from com dot flipkart dot qa, and after that you say artifact id equal to e-commerce. So this is your main or the parent group of project, and now current project is all about e-commerce. Then you can have another project which will say com dot group id com dot flipkart dot qa, and artifact id is, let's say, sales or marketing or whatever as per your business requirement. So I'm taking a simple example here. Then minus d archetype artifact id. So this is the artifact id for this particular archetype generate. uh, Maven archetype quick start, and minus d interactive mode is false. So interactive mode is false means it will silently create a project in background for you, and you need not to give any additional parameters once you fire this command. So I'm just pressing enter. Right, so a very simple project created from this archetype, and the same folder here. So now we were on this folder, and it will actually create a folder called as e-commerce. So let us see this. So now it has created a folder called as e-commerce, and inside that there will be some folder structure, and there's a by default there's a pom.xml file which will be available. Now what I've done is I've already created this project in the sometime earlier, and I've copied this inside this every individual folder. So we will explore the Maven commands and the other points inside this every folder. So remember, in every folder there is just copy of this e-commerce folder. Okay. Right, so we have created a simple project. So now let us open this project. So I have opened that project, but it is in the case one folder, but it is the same. There is no difference. Now, if you see here, I have created, so there will be by default src folder will be created, and main and test. Now, if you see what is there in the main folder, so main folder will have the files for your actual Java development project, and test folder will have those files which will be using which we will be able to test this the actual project, or sometimes also called as in the test folder we have all the unit test files, and in the Maven in the src for in the main folder we have all the actual Java development. Okay. uh, if you're creating a fresh Maven project for development purpose, you need not to worry what is in the test folder. And if you are using this, if you are creating this Maven project for test automation and all, so you need not to worry what is there in the main project, just start using the test folder. Right, so now inside the test folder, there is again a facility to add a resources folder wherein all your resources, for example, properties file, Excel file, config file, so that will be part of your resources section. So that will be under the test folder. Now let us see this pom.xml file, which is already opened here. Now in the pom.xml file, we have certain sections, like we have this header part, and then the group ID, artifact ID, what we have given. Packaging is jar. So whenever we compile and run this project, that will actually so it will be created as a jar file, and we will be actually running the jar file in the background. Right, so version is 1.0 snapshot, which is a standard. The name is what, artifact ID is what we have given. URL is the basic URL for Maven, and dependencies. So Let's see this in detail. Okay, so for simplicity, I'm launching a terminal here, just like your command prompt here. This is the facility in IntelliJ. I think this is not there in Eclipse, so we will use this IntelliJ only. Right, so we have created a project. Now, yeah, so pom.xml structure. So pom uh, pom.xml file is the important file in any Maven project, and it has a little standard structure. So obviously it will have a header, the XML version and other things. Then we have something called as a life cycle, phases or goals section. So we will see this a little in detail in the upcoming slides, but this is what should be there, or it should be part of pom.xml file. So we should have life cycle, phases or goals, then build packaging section. So how do you want to package your build? Like you want to create a jar file or a war file or a pom, or again an XML pom.xml dependency. So that is the build packaging section. Now we have dependency section. So in this section, basically we try to address this external jar file dependency, external jar file versioning and repository, central repository. So that is what will be part of this dependency section. Now again we have something called as a profile management section. So that also we'll see in detail. Profiling is basically for different business purpose. We want the project should behave in a certain way. So that is what is a profile management section, right? So now let us see little more theoretical topic, which will be easy to understand in your entire career. Now, so the build process, right? So now when we say Maven is a build management tool, it has different processes. So we have build life cycles, we have phases, and we have goals. So every entity has its own importance. So build life cycle. So a build life cycle consists of a sequence of build phases. So build life cycle consists of build phases, and each build phase consists of sequence of goals. So build lifecycle consists of phases, phases consist of goals. Okay, and then we have plugins. So plugins are used to insert extra goals in the build phase. This all we will see with examples, but for now just an introduction. And we have profiles. So profiles are used if you need to build your project for a specific condition. For example, a test environment or production environment, or it's a Windows system or a Linux system, and so on. So that is what is a profile. Now folder structure, as we have seen, we have src main, then we have Java, and then we can have our own packages and other internal structure. Similarly, src main, and similarly src test Java and our packaging structure. So that's how the structure is. Remember, whenever you open a project in IntelliJ or Eclipse, uh, you need to open a folder which contains the pom.xml file. So if you see this e-commerce project, whenever it was created using command line, will have this src folder. So under this, the parent folder, you will have a pom.xml file. So you need to open the folder which contains pom.xml file. You should not open a folder which is the parent of e-commerce. So the base folder for this is e-commerce, which contains the pom.xml file, right? So this is again a simple example explanation, right? Now let us see other things. Right. So now again, let's understand. So we have build life cycle, then we have build phases, and then we have goal. This is important from interview perspective also. May not be at a junior stage, but senior stage, and when you are a lead or a senior engineer, that point onwards, these concepts do matter. So let's see that. Now we have build life cycle and life cycle phases. So this is the text is coming from this official website, and I'm just using the same thing in my presentation. So yeah, so build life cycle. So let us see some extract. So build life cycle, there are three built-in build life cycle: default, clean, and site. Now most of the times we'll be using either default or the clean. So the default lifecycle handles your project deployment. Uh, Clean lifecycle handles a project cleaning and site. So project deployment means once your project is compiled and it is packaged, so where do you want to deploy? So if you want to deploy it on some external repository, or nowadays it's called as Nexus repository or any other repository, so you can deploy it there, and the other systems will just copy that and use it for their own purpose. Clean, it handles the project cleaning. So you have compiled your project, but then you have made some changes in some Java files. After that, you want to use the latest compiled code. So that is what. So clean will actually clean the existing class files and any other content, and then you can build the project again. So that is what it handles, the cleaning. Site lifecycle handles the project creation documentation, and it is not high priority. Now life cycle phases. So build life cycle and life cycle phases. So again, there's a discussion here. There's a good information here. If you see their official website, life cycle and all. So there's a very simple explanation there. But let us see. So each build life cycle is divided into sequence of build phases. So build life cycle and build phases. So these are the typical phases of a build life cycle. So validate, compile, test, package, verify, install, and deploy. So so we have seen in the problem statement that uh, build life cycle. So if you want to clean and compile and build the project in a non-Maven project, so there are a lot of commands you need to use, and after that it will be again available at some different locations, and you need to combine it. So that is what is made simple using this phases. So now when you say compile, it will compile all the Java files. When you say test, it will do the unit test. Package, so the package means it will combine all the required dependent jar file class files, and it will make it as a package, and it will give you as a form of jar file. So ultimately your project will be converted into a jar file. So that is done automatically. Now verify is there, install is there. So once you have this package available, then you want to install it or copy in some folder, so that other people can start using it. And deploy means it will basically copy or upload into a remote repository itself, okay, from where anywhere in your company or anyone in the world can use it. Right. Now, one point, important point is these life cycle phases are executed sequentially. So let's say you run this, let's say test life cycle phase. So actually, when you say test, when you execute test, it will run the earlier all the phases. Okay. When you say, if, for example, if you run the install one, then it will actually run all the phases, and it will do the continue up to the install one. So that's how it is designed, that it will be in sequence. If it will be in a sequential manner. Now there's something called as a goal. So the goal is basically the task or action to be executed. Okay, a plugin can have one or multiple goals, so we can use plugins to specify the goals. Okay, so now a plugin. So what is a plugin? It is a way to add goals to phases, is to configure plugins in your project. Okay, plugins are artifacts that provide goals to Maven, right? It's an artifact. It is generally used to create a jar file or war file, compile code, unit test code, and many other things. So simple analogy is a plugin is a class, and goals are methods within the class. Okay. Once again, plugin is a class and goals are methods within the class. Simple analogy. Right. Now, some of the commonly used plugins are clean plugin, compiler plugin. Mostly we use for unit test called as Surefire plugin, and jar plugin is also there. So it builds the jar file from your current project and so on. So we will see this with example also, but for now, little theoretical part here. Now profile. So again, if you go to this site and see what is a profile, so it is generally used to create a jar or a war file, compile code, and unit test code. For example, so profile, we can have different profiles, for example, production profile or SIT profile. Now what is this? Uh, let's say for production we are using a different database, and for SIT or other environment we are using no, other database. So we can have a profile which is for production, where we can specify a specific database details. So for example, separate username, separate password. And for SIT environment we can have again separate thing. Let's say developer or QA profile. So for developer purpose we might need, let's say we don't need to do unit test. The developer will actually develop their code, so they don't want to do, let's say, Selenium test cases. But QA profile, so QA profile will need to use Selenium and will need to execute unit test using Selenium. So there's a different profile here. Now Windows and Linux, so there are certain libraries which might be, Windows dependent or Linux dependent, so we can have that profile. Now archetype, as we have discussed, it is a tool provided by Maven to create a project quickly, right? So simple definition of build lifecycle phases, goals, plugin, profile. Now before starting the actual commands and all, let us understand. So your source code will be in your src main Java. Okay, so the source code will be in src main and Java. So this is where your development source code will be here, and this is where your unit testing or the automation related code will be here in the test folder, right? Resources, so src main resources or src test resources, this is where your external resource files, for example, YAML file, JSON file, properties file, config files, or different type of resources, your images, your JPG, PNG files, and multiple CSS. So those are probably in your SRC main resources, or in automation it will be SRC test resources folder. Now the tests, the unit test will be obviously in the SRC test folder. That is what we have seen. uh, Once you compile your code, we will see those commands. So the compiled code, compiled classes will be available in the target folder. So if you see here, when the project was created freshly, there is no target folder here. Okay, so src main test. So under src in this project, there is no target folder created anywhere. Okay, so now when you compile this code, a target folder will be created automatically, right? So in the target folder, all the class files or jar files will be copied in the target folder. Then the jar file, so if you want to package your project as a jar file, then it will be under the target classes folder. Okay, now what is this dot dot? So dot dot is the project base folder where the pom.xml is present. So again, uh, pom.xml file is very important, and we will be giving the commands to execute or to do lot of Maven processing uh, at a at a folder where you have pom.xml file is present. Okay, right. Now let us do hands-on in the subsequent session. Thank you.